Hello students, welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Today we are discussing as a block utility analysis. As part of that Ordinal Utility Approach. We have learned what is Cardinal Utility Approach. We will try to go in detail about Ordinal Utility Approach. Ordinal Utility Approach was given by Allen and Hicks, which refers to the measurement of utility in terms of psychological satisfaction. How? In terms of psychological satisfaction, and a consumer can just rank his or her preference from set of most preferred to least preferred bundles. I think this is very clear. Ordinal utility, it only ranks, it will not give you the numbers, right? So the total numbers, the utility which you will not find in the Ordinal Utility Approach. I will refer again what is the Ordinal Utility Approach. Measurement of the utility in terms of psychological satisfaction, and a consumer can just rank his or her preference from set of most preferred to least preferred bundles. So that means whatever they are required, so they will rank which is the highest preference and which is the lowest preference. Now this theory also how it will work. So now we are trying to say this, that there are assumptions. As I told you, assumptions are very important, the way we discussed about your ordinal utility. So now here also, whenever you are analyzing ordinal utility, the rationality is very important. As we discussed, the rationality is the maximizing the benefit of utilizing the commodity, the level of satisfaction, or with the given money, how we rationalize or how we maximize our level of satisfaction. And every individual who are under this examination or under the measurement, they should behave rationally. Because some people sometimes they says no, if I don't use it, why should I eat more? I will eat only one. So that doesn't give any rationality. If you are maximizing till your stomach is full, if you can able to eat according to that, so that you can maximize the level of satisfaction. That is called the rationality. It is not that overeating, it is the rationalizing maximum utility which you are trying to derive. Okay. And here also the another is the utility, that is we said utils, right? Utility is measured in terms of utils. That utility is ordinal. They say that it can be only ranked. And here also they say dimensioning marginal rate of substitution. Remember there we said the law of dimensioning marginal utility. The utility how it is coming down was the major concern in your cardinal approach. While ordinal approach, we are talking about marginal rate of substitution. Whenever you want to use one commodity, what is the additional, that rate which you are substituting, which tells about this marginal rate of substitution. So in this analysis, in the ordinal utility approach, that the marginal rate of substitution is the delta MRTS, MRC, MRS is the very important. So the total utility of the consumer depends on the quantities of commodities consumed, right? The total utility of a consumer depends on the quantities of the commodities consumed. This is very clear, that if a consumer, how many total commodities or the units they consumed, that comes under the total units. Consistency and transitivity of choice. So the consistency and transitivity of choice which will be worked. Then how do we go about it? If you see in a graphical form, though we will discuss in detail, but we have a concept called indifference curve. What is this indifference curve? How do we go about it? As we discussed that law of dimensioning marginal utility, we have seen the graph where they move from up, it is increasing, constant, and it declines. right? So that was the total utility. So now here in indifference curve, the major point is they says that the indifference curve is locus of points, particularly combination or bundles of goods which yield the same utility. What do you mean by utility? That is a level of satisfaction to the consumer, so that he is indifferent as to be the particular combination he consumes. So that means the one difference curve to the another indifference curves, one consumer can move. This is always convex to the origin to the graph. So indifference map shows that all indifference curves which rank the preferences of the consumer, the combination of goods situated on an indifference curve yield the same utility, and combination of goods by laying on higher indifference curve yield higher level of satisfactions are preferred. Combination of goods on lower indifference curves yield lower utility. So the overall, we will see how indifference curves, the shape of the indifference curves, whether indifference curves intersect or it is a vertical or an horizontally will reflect what would be the shape of the curve. We will discuss in the next part of it. But now if you see the utility part overall, the utility which were derived, we talked about in the utility basically from the consumer point of view, how we can utilize the consumers satisfaction, so that consumers would tend to buy more of such commodities. Then we discussed about the approaches, how do we measure the the consumer utility, right? So there also we talked about different theories of law of dimensioning marginal utility, law of equimarginal utility, consumer surplus. So then we talked about the your ordinal approach, where we talked about that where you have the the indifference curve analysis, which are primarily we talked about it. So overall, these two utility analysis, what is the major purpose? If you ask, sir, when I learned cardinal utility approach, ordinal utility approach, what is my take home? So it is only trying to say that how consumer satisfaction is measured. One of the approach, that is cardinal approach, talks that it can be measured in terms of numbers. And ordinal approach says, no, that it is unscientific. You can't measure level of satisfaction. We don't have such measurements. The consumers may be able to say orally, but that will not be as scientific. It will not be an authenticated. Instead, you give us ranks compared to the first one, whether you got more utilities the first unit or second unit, third unit. So you rank the most highly satisfied and also lower satisfied in a rank wise. So this overall would help us to understand, measure the consumer satisfaction in a better way. So that was the reason this utility approach has been discussed. So in the particularly in the law of dimensioning marginality also, if you see in the real time analysis, when any consumer, if they tend to use same kind of commodity, it can tend to be yield negative utility also. Because if you are repeatedly using same commodity, you will have negative utility. Negative utility in a communicative language, we can say one person may be vomiting. After eating a food, if they vomit, then you will say that is a negative utility. So when they stop it, that when their stomach is full, if they can stop it, that is the maximum point where consumer is satisfied, right? So this overall analysis would help us to draw the inferences about consumer satisfaction. Based on that, the pricing mechanism also can be developed, right? So this is one of the very important concepts in the microeconomic analysis. Thank you.